Ladies and gentlemen, could we please rise for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Well, to start out, we're all here, so we've got a quorum. Call to order. Confirmation was at least by, last Thursday, I think we put everything out. So that's plenty of time. So I would accept a motion to approve the minutes on January 24th.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any additions, subtractions, whatever? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I would also accept a
Motion.
motion. Thank you very much. Sometimes the elevator just doesn't go all the way up. I will accept a motion to accept the February 19th board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Now we'll hear from the treasurer.
I always have the pleasure of reporting on our financials, which, we are in a very strong, healthy financial position, and we continue to be. In January, we generated net income of $33,992, creating a favorable budget variance of approximately $38,000, comprised of $10,000 favorable income variance and a $28,000 favorable spending variance. The favorable income variance was primarily related to the interest income we generated of $15,000 this period on a budget of $5,000. We included a conservative $60,000 of interest income in our 2024 budget, assuming average operating funds of $2 million, generating a return of 3%. The budget assumes the building renovation will move forward in 2024, thereby reducing operating funds by approximately $2 million. We currently have more than $4 million in operating funds, with over 75% of that currently earning 5.26%, which is why we have that favorable variance. Our $28,000 favorable spending variance is primarily due to timing. Most of the annual budget expenses are spread evenly over a 12-month period, but actual expenses can vary from month to month. Additionally, not all contract increases occur on January 1. The budget spreads these increases in major contracts over the entire year, creating timing differences between the budget and the actual spending. In theory, as the year progresses, these variances should even out if our assumptions about actual increases are correct. We currently have a very healthy $5.8 million in cash, of which $1.6 million is tied to our reserve fund. In 2023, we moved most of our operating funds to Alliance Bank to take advantage of substantially better investment options. Alliance Bank has been a very solid business partner. They have been both responsive to our needs and easy to work with, which has not been our experience with Truist, which is why I'm requesting board support and tasking our CAM to develop a transition plan to move our operating accounts, i.e. working capital funds, from Truist to Alliance by 12/31/2024. So I think we're gonna need a motion to do that.
Yeah, if you guys want me to investigate that.
So I'd like a motion to task the CAM to work with the legacy or the Leland accounting team to move our existing operating accounts from Truist Bank to Alliance Bank.
I'll
Basically-
second that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And that's,
Any discussion?
yeah, I can understand. We'll wait till the end of the year because right now we're still paying our monthly dues into Truist. But yeah, please do that. Any other discussion? Having heard some of the side discussion with Truist, and part of the reason so everybody else understands, there was somebody intercepted a check that we sent to Yellowstone and cashed it. So Truist, in their best interest of us, closed our whole account down. We couldn't do anything with anything. They just didn't investigate the one thing, they just closed us down. So with that and the fact there's some other issues, we think going to Alliance just makes a lot more sense for all of us. So that's part of the background. Did I cover it all?
I'd like to add that when we when we went to Truist, to talk about the substantial amount of funds we had with them back, oh gosh, this was May, June, July, they would not budge on, moving our rates up from a 1%, income factor on interest on earnings, and weren't giving us any long-term, investment options that would provide any benefit to us from 1%. When we went to Alliance, they offered so many more options and rates from anywhere from 2.5 to 5.2.6%. And on top of it, when we moved all these funds over, because of their relationship with Leland, they actually moved our sweep account to 3.5%, which has no timed requirements on it. So Alliance just has been a great business partner for us. They've got a really good relationship with Leland, and our Leland accounting manager says that they're a lot easier to work with respect to making investments, and we're always maturing and investing our cash. So we want to make it easier for the team that supports us as well. So I'm pretty excited about this motion.
Does this affect FDIC insurance, or does that not apply to us?
When we work with Alliance, the CDARs that we move everything into are spread out amongst banks. So that's why they're CDARs, not
Okay.
CDs. Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, just Chris, you mentioned the check payment to Yellowstone was intercepted in cash by
Somebody else, yeah.
Yeah. Is that been resolved? I mean, are we out the money? I mean, what's the situation?
No, we're not out the money. It goes into a fraud claim, and they investigate it, and the only way we would be out the money is if,
If the bank doesn't substantiate it?
yeah, but it'll be taken care of.
Understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Continue.
So the Finance Committee's been very busy in the months of December, January, and February. At the December Finance Committee meeting, the team discussed investment options for the large 26-week operating CDAR maturing on 2/22 for just over $3 million. They have proposed, and I concur, that we invest $2 million in a 26-week CDAR with the remainder to reside in the sweep account, which earns 3.56%. I have instructed the Leland accounting manager to move forward with that investment. The Finance Committee reviewed the annual insurance proposal and supported moving forward with this proposal. Their feedback was shared with a special board meeting held on January 19th. At the February 26th Finance Committee meeting, we discussed other maturing investments. Motions were made to recommend reinvesting both maturing investments after considering the association's cash requirements over the next 6 months. They recommended, and I concur, that the 13-week operating CDAR held at Alliance Bank for approximately $493,000, currently earning a rate of 2.5%, maturing on 2/29, be invested into a 26-week CDAR at Alliance Bank for a rate of 5%. They also recommended, and I concur, the operating CDAR held at OFB for approximately $232,000, currently earning a rate of 4%, maturing on 3/22, be moved to Alliance and invested in a 26-week jumbo CDAR if the rate at the time of maturity is at 4% or exceeds 4%. Otherwise, that money would go into our sweep account, earning a rate of 3.56%. Immediately following the Finance Committee, I instructed the Leland accounting manager to proceed with both investment recommendations. The committee also discussed the need to establish a tax provision for 2024. Now, we haven't really had to talk about taxes in the past, but because of last year, we earned a lot of interest income. And interest income is is considered taxable for HOAs because it's not part of an HOA's association's normal business. The association had taxable income in 2023 due to investment income, and will also have taxable income in 2024 due to the favorable investing environment and our healthy cash position. The committee recommended establishing a monthly tax provision based on a 30% of reported interest income each month. I'd like to make a motion that we instruct Leland Accounting to establish a monthly tax provision at a rate of 30% of recorded interest each month going forward as we proceed through the year, so that we can kind of make sure that that money is allocated for taxes, and we just identify it and know it's there and it can't be spent. So I'd like to make a motion to have Leland Accounting establish a monthly tax provision at a rate of 30% of reported
I'll
interest per
second
month.
that motion.
Any discussion on
Does
that?
does that make sense to everybody what she's talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, any other discussion? Makes sense, okay, all those in favor, did you?
A second.
Oh, no, I know you did.
What?
I was getting ready to ask for a yes vote.
Yes.
Anyway, any other discussion? Okay, good, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Just one question.
Oh, now you got,
No, it's not about what we just voted on.
okay.
I just was wondering, who are we gonna get to do our 2023 taxes?
We've got an engagement letter and signed with our existing accounting firm. That has not changed. And they should actually be done with the 2023 audit and tax return by the end of the month of March, or soon. So
Okay.
so right now, the numbers for 2023 are technically preliminary until the audit is done and the taxable income, which we, until the
Is
tax return is
confirmed, right.
complete, we don't have that number, and we'll talk about it at the next meeting, okay? Restricted funds and retained earnings report. Our reserves increased by $37,673 this period, raising our reserve fund balance at 131.24 to $1,517,782. The increase was due to the monthly reserve allocation of $32,162 and earned interest of $5,511. The good thing, and I'd like to remind everybody, interest earned on the reserves stays in the reserve account versus interest earned on operating funds it doesn't go to a specific fund like space planning or anything like that. It goes to our working capital account. But when it's earned on the reserves, it stays in the reserves, and that's really a good thing. The reserve fund balance will be reduced by about $500,000 once the Phase 4 road work has been paid for, which was approved by the board at the November 15th meeting. The cable deferred savings fund decreased by $3,534 this month, consistent with the 2024 monthly budget allocation, reducing the fund balance to $462,942. There were no other transactions this month that impacted the restricted use funds. As of January 31, our restricted use funds combined total $3,452,799. The restricted use funds will be reduced by, initially it was about $163,000, the remainder on the Phase 4 project, but because they didn't lay as much asphalt, that's gonna be another $115,000, right? About
120.
120. So the good news on that, we budgeted for the total project to be $663,086. That was what the proposal was, but it actually came in at about $620,000. So that money will stay in the uncommitted project funds. But that hadn't been paid yet at the end of January. That expense was approved by the board at the November 15th board meeting. Our retained earnings balance before audit, including the 2023 net income of $187,022 at 131.24, is $577,587. Very healthy financial situation. Thank you.
I love favorable financial reports. Golly, that's just great. Thank you very much, Diane.
Yep.
We've got the manager's report now.
Okay, so for February, the biggest project we completed was the road work. All the striping's been done, the crosswalks. That all went pretty well. I wanted to thank the residents for patience and working with the contractors. It seemed like everybody was, there were no major issues, so that's great. Softball field, dugouts and bleachers. We replaced all the fascia on the coverings down there that had been damaged over the years from wind storms, and we've been kind of piecing it together, but we went ahead and just replaced all of it, and it turned out really good. Maintenance, specifically John, has been working on the different sports courts. He's basically trying to spruce them all up. He's done some work down at the horseshoe courts, doing repainting, reconditioning the soil, and putting new carpet coverings over the pits. And the bocce courts, he's stained the court borders and is repainting the yellow handrails right now. And the tennis courts, the practice wall that's there, it's been pretty weathered, so we're replacing sections of it and repainting that So that should look really nice when it's done. Road study, central testing is out this week, doing their site visit portion of the road study. Hopefully that will actually lead to a report within a couple weeks, and we'll have that discussed next meeting. My plan is to have them come out and meet with you guys so that you could ask questions and figure out what a good path would be going forward, so that we can relay that information to the reserve people so they can adjust the reserve study. And then for an update on the building, we got an update last week from PAL Studios. The project has had some delays, but they expect to deliver the plans that are 50% completed by March 22nd. So we should be discussing that the next regular board meeting for March. And then dock proposals, I met with Frank and one of the members of the club. We got some specifics together. I've been working with a couple of contractors. I have one bid already, and then I'm expecting another one later this week, and I'm hoping to get one more after that. I'd like to have 3 for you guys to consider, but they all seem open to the ideas and the concepts that we have given them. So hopefully that will also be in your March meeting. And then the covenants vote and annual meeting election, we have 5.5 days left of that. Right now, or as of me writing this report earlier today, we have about 61% of the available vote in. So we're quite a bit short of what we probably need to pass the covenant. So if you have not voted and you would like to vote, please contact our office. I will figure out how we can make that happen, whether it's in person or we sign a new electronic form to get an email sent to you. We'll make it happen. Just reach out to us. The meeting will be held on March 5th. So we're going to start the morning at 10:30 with the covenants vote results, and that'll take about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a short break, and then the annual meeting will start at 11. We'll do the committee reports, the president's report, treasurer's report, and my management report, and then we'll go into the election results, and then have the organizational meeting right after that. All of these will be televised on channel 17, and that's all I've got.
Thank you very much. Well, I get to talk to you again. First off, and it's going to be about covenants and voting. I don't know how, first off, I want to thank all the people, and especially the Communication Ad Hoc Committee, who's done a lot of work. Mary Kay was part of that to begin with. Gary Smizny, I don't think I'm going to recognize him without his little sign around his neck there, or on the back of his golf cart. There's still some misconception out there that the change of these covenants will change your HOA fees. They will not. And I'm just going to go right down very quickly. The first covenant we need to change is the insurance covenant. This has nothing to do with your HOA fees. It's how much, $2,500. It's something that's older, and it doesn't need to be there. So we just need to get rid of that. By the way, so you understand, the covenants come straight out of Florida Statute 720, literally verbatim. Every year, the Florida legislature takes a look at the statutes, and if it needs to be changed, they do. A few years ago, the board of directors put together a group of residents to look through our covenants and our bylaws and see what needed to be changed. So they made recommendations. These were these recommendations. We're just like the Florida legislature, only I think we work a little better. Anyway, the first one, yeah, it has nothing to do with raising your HOA fees. It's just getting rid of something that is just outdated. The second one, the conservation easements. We can't do anything in the conservation easements unless we get rid of most of 4.8.2. Very simply, we just need the first paragraph that says we need a letter from St. John's after we send them a letter and say we would like to do this in the conservation easement. And we've had St. John's up here a couple of times, and they said what we're proposing to do is not a problem. We just need to get the covenants changed. That's not going to raise your HOA fees. The third one is rental agreement, and you've got a couple of choices there. Do we have a problem with rentals now? No, we do not. But what we're looking at is looking forward, trying to get our crystal ball out and saying, we may have a problem down the road. That's why we're trying to either, one, make sure you've got two choices. You can completely stop anybody who buys in of not ever renting their home, or the first choice, which is just if you want to rent it, you have to have a 6-month rental agreement. Please take a look at that and vote on that. That's not going to change your HOA fees. The fourth one, the emergency radio antenna. The antennas are about the size, not even the size, of a fishing pole. They're 25 foot tall. They've been used already in a couple of emergency situations. But what we would try to do is change this so that we can do this legally. We've not had any complaints when they've had these emergency situations, and hope we never have to use them. But if we lose power and we need to get a hold of the first responders in Leesburg, we can't do it without these antennas. It's no cost to us. The ham radio operators will purchase, they already have the antennas, and like I said, they've been used a couple of times in emergency practices with the people in Leesburg, and they work. So that has nothing to do with raising your HOA fees. Last but not least, and probably the most important, is we're trying to reduce the percentage of votes. 667 yes votes, not just votes, but yes votes is literally impossible, as we've seen before. The last time we did this, we ended up with 559 yes votes. Hopefully, we can pass that, so in the future, we just need 500 votes, just a plurality. And that's not going to raise your HOA fees. The covenants have absolutely nothing to do with money. I can't say that enough. And I appreciate all those who have worked really hard. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, ask them if they voted. We've got a few days left. Like you said, I looked just before I came down here, it was 61%. That means we've got 610 votes. I hope they're all yes. But I understand too, it's a choice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our community. This is where we have chosen to live. This is going to make things just a little bit easier and better going forward. And I'm not shoveling anything into your front driveway, okay? With that said, I think we can move on. We have unfinished business, Fantasy Park Nature Garden Club gift donation. I think that's Jenny Olson. Please, and keep it short. What? Oh, there's somebody that wants to talk first?
No, I was just gonna tee it up. I mean, basically this is the gift request.
Okay.
So what Jenny will explain is what the cost is for the project, what they're donating, and you guys are making a decision on whether or not to accept the gift.
I understand. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. When I submitted this packet last week, we had not yet had the flea market, and we did not yet have the meter installed. So I was requesting that we move forward as soon as the water meter was installed on the lot. Well, by some miracle, last Friday, the meter was installed. So we are very, very happy that we can move forward. And then the flea market, instead of giving us the $600 that was estimated, the funds that we received from the flea market were $1,503. That means an extra $900 right there. It's just remarkable. I just think the people who donated their hours need to be thanked so much for caring so much. Yes, it's a Legacy Nature Garden Club project, but it's for all of us who live here. And I was really happy to see them move forward. So you still have an updated plan, but now the meter is in, and now you know how much we received from the update on the flea market. The only thing we don't know is this Friday is the Fun and Fashion Show. And I estimated that we would have funds between 12 and 1,600, so I went for 1,400. We don't know, but we've sold out. It's going to be a great show. So I'm guessing that we will get our 1,400, which means the projected funds I estimated to be $5,565. And the estimated cost to do this is $5,095. So isn't it good news? We don't even need to ask the association for any money unless we run into some major problem, which I don't anticipate at all. So we're ready to roll. What we need to know is that you accept this gift and that we can move forward so that Bill Stoltenberg and the team putting the irrigation in can start as early as they can get the supplies here. So I thank you for your support. And I'm wondering if you have any questions about anything else that we are planning, like the sign, the birdhouse, the pathway, the plants. If you have any concerns, it's a great time to ask.
Anybody? No. Anybody sign up to discuss or wanna?
Pat, after you guys make a motion.
Oh, after we make a motion. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve accepting the donation from the Nature Garden Club and authorize commencing work on Fantasy Park project.
So, no, I'm sorry, go ahead. Eileen also signed up to speak, and Jenny did, but Jenny's already talking. So
Okay, you finished. Get out of here. Thank you much.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny.
And by the way, thank you to everybody at Legacy who's donated. There's been some people that pushed this, but I tell you, soup and salad was just fantastic. People donating their hours from the flea market, just really special. Eileen?
Hi, Eileen Smith, lot 649, and I am co-chair of the Legacy Nature Garden Club. And I just want to thank everyone who donated their hours towards during the flea market towards the Fantasy Park project. Everyone who came and donated and enjoyed their soup and salad for the soup and salad luncheon. Everyone who has donated other than that, and you know what, you still have an opportunity to donate. We will not accept your donations. But we are very, very excited for this project. The Garden Club has talked about it for a few years, and it's been brought up, and there were years where we thought, oh, this is a really big project. I'm not sure we can handle this, but we are going to do it. We are. And I'm just so excited to see what it's going to look like. You may have seen this concept plan that Dee Ream drew for us. It's absolutely beautiful. We have a wonderful team: Greg Drawbaugh, Dee Ream, Ginny Olson, Pat Summers, Russ Sass, and myself that have been working on this. And we each have our own unique talents. And so it's going to be a wonderful project for the community, and I hope everyone will enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. And also I'm gonna say Bill Stoltenberg too, because he's gonna do a lot of the irrigation work.
Exactly.
Oh, and Matt.
Yes.
Matt's been very, very helpful as usual. Is there somebody else?
There's Pat, but we can skip her. I'm just kidding. You want to say something, Pat?
Oh, so what you're saying, if we pass this, we don't have to see it again? Is that what you're saying? No.
On this one.
On this,
On
yeah,
this
on
one.
this one,
With
yeah.
a caveat, I'm sure.
Is there any discussion at all from anybody?
No, I
It's
think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna be a terrific improvement to the community.
Yeah.
And I think we're all in agreement to that regard.
Anything else? Oh,
Yeah, we're supposed to represent the wants and interests of our residents and reflect that. And I think this is a clear cut, probably the easiest decision we could probably make as board members. When we see a project that seems to have a great deal of community interest, They took the initiative to raise the money, so they're not coming to us begging for money. So it's clearly evident that there's a lot of desire for this, and I just commend them to actually, you know, have a desire, make a plan, figure out how to fund the plan, and keep that all on track. That's very commendable, and I want to thank you all that are involved, and I think this is a great thing.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? No. You're welcome, Pat. Moving right along, now into new business. The TPG Christmas lighting proposals.
So they usually give us a 1-year contract, but they offered a 3-year option that would kind of lock in the price for 3 years. Otherwise, each year it tends to go up a little bit, and you can see from the difference in the 1-year proposal versus the cost of the 3 years, it's a decent amount of savings. So you all just need to decide if you want to commit to the company for 1 or 3 years. Now, I know this year we had some issues with the building lights, but that had nothing to do with their installation. There's a fault somewhere in the ground wire underneath the lawn, and we are going to have that repaired here soon. So they'll be running a new line, and so that we shouldn't have a problem next year.
Anybody want to make a motion for a 3-year commitment with TPG?
I just want to understand here, Josh, if you could help me with this, because I've read this over a few times. Am I correct in assuming that if we did a 1-year, it's the $16,777, and if we did a 3-year, it's the $15,999?
No, the 1 year was $15,099, and then if you sign up for 3 years,
It's 13.
$13,589.
Great.
13,861 and then 14.
Yeah, plus tax.
So what is the $16,777.50?
so they had to start. There's tax involved, but what they did was they rebated that in a different line item.
Okay.
So you'll see that there's a higher number, but then you see it rebated in a different line item.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the 3-year contract, where there'll be such, I agree, there's a cost savings. It's $3,700 over the 3-year period we'll be saving doing that. Like I said, every year it goes up. So I'll make the motion to accept the 3-year contract.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Do we have anybody signed up? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving right along, shuffleboard court resurfacing.
So this was discussed at the Sports and Fitness Committee meeting. It was one of their first meetings, and they asked that we look at getting that resurfaced. So when we had Nighty out to do the tennis courts and the pickleball netting, I had them look at the shuffleboard courts. Basically, they said they recommended that we put it off a little bit until after they get done with that project, and at the beginning of the year they would send us a proposal. So I got a proposal from them. And then Taylor Tennis, I did reach out to 2 other companies. Neither one of them were interested in bidding. So I had 4 total, 2 submitted bids, and that's what you're looking at today. So this could be a reserve item. It's over the threshold. It is also in your reserve study. It's for some reason it's scheduled at 2050. They put the shelf life of the shuffleboard courts at 35 years. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it's scheduled for, and it's $7,000 in that line item.
Oh, okay, I'll start this and we'll go around to my left and around.
So,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, there is somebody that, I was just introducing it, but there is somebody that wanted to speak before you guys discuss.
Okay.
So Mike Villarini.
Good afternoon. For those that don't know me, I'm Mike Lorraine. I'm the chairman of the Shuffleboard Committee, and some of my members are here. I'd just like to thank the board and the CAM office for some of the stuff that's been going on the last couple of years in reference to the last, before that we have nothing done. At least this is being looked at. In bringing up a sign and the irrigation thing that the CAM helped us with. However, there's other work that needs to be done. The drainage of that place is awful. There's no way for heavy rains to flow out of there accurately or without overflowing the banks, so to speak. So that needs to be looked at regularly instead of just like once a year. That stuff gets covered up with grass clippings and it starts coming up real fast. There's nowhere for the water to go but up. So we need to look at that seriously in the future. The existing drains just don't work. On the agenda, you have two proposals.
Correct.
I consider one a proposal, the other was a joke. The Taylor thing is, to me, doesn't cover the damage that's done to that court already. It needs to be resurfaced and redone. The Shuffleboard Committee is willing to put in $600 for that bottom item that's optional to make the whole thing look a little better. But the little bumper things, which is added on there, it's all we can do to try to make things a little smoother. Again, those drains need to be worked on. A little box this size and 4 of them not going anywhere does not work for the amount of rain we get out here. That's all I got.
Okay, well, I have a question for you, but I'm stating first,
I only got 3 minutes.
yeah, no, you got your 3 minutes. Now I got a question. Hopefully they won't buzz us, but talk with Bill Stoltenberg, the Sports and Fitness Committee about your issues.
Yeah, my next
so they
step.
can get that on but they've got a meeting next week.
My next step was, I had him working at my house, and
Yeah. Second thing I'm gonna ask you is, I went out there and I really did take a good hard look at it yesterday. And outside of the fact that the numbers are a little bit, or the boxes around the numbers are a little bit faded, I just didn't see enough issue where we might wanna resurface everything this year, maybe wait 1 year and do it then. But I'm asking you, I don't see the wear and tear that we need to do it this year.
when you started playing there at the beginning, then this just flew to the other side. And as the years go on, it got slower and slower. And now you're starting to see a little, where the disc just go to one side or the other. It's happening. It's just a matter of either the concrete settling or damage underneath, who knows, but it's happening.
Okay, so repainting is gonna take care of that.
Say again?
To repaint the course.
Not repainted, they need to be resurfaced.
Resurfaced, okay.
They'll take care of some of the cracks and some of the other stuff that Levy was already offered to do on that bid. Repainting is just gonna cover the old blemishes and take care of the rough part.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Mike, when I looked at it over there, I kind of leaned toward what Chris was saying, but I wanted to defer to the people that use it all the time, such as yourself. So we appreciate your input here. It seemed like of the courts, the one closest to the road was the worst.
Yes.
By far.
Yes.
I did notice a few cracks going all the way across. There was inside one of the triangles, there was maybe a 2 square inch little chip out of it. I did call 2 or 3 people that I know play and ask them their views. And the consensus seems to be that, yes, it has degraded. Their thinking was that it didn't impact play too much that it could perhaps be put off another year or so. But my thinking is based on what you're saying, you know, I equate everything to working on a house. And you know what, you fix the foundation before you paint the house. And it sounds to me like there's more issues with the drainage.
There is issues with the
That
drainage,
is.
there's issues with the court.
And unless I could be convinced otherwise, it seems the common sense thing to do is to invest some money into the drainage and the infrastructure of the courts, and then paint, and then have the surface redone, you know, after, or incorporate it all, you know, because I'm a little bit concerned that any work that done there could actually hurt brand new coated courts. There should be a progression, a logical progression. So,
Josh, I
If
thought
you-
we had done some work on
If you're gonna-
drainage on those courts.
3 minutes up.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
If you're gonna put a proper drainage in there, I mean, to make the flow out, go out, instead of just sit there, then it's gonna have to be done, I think, like between seasons and stuff, or in the summertime, there's nobody out there. Our major problem is for when we have scheduled games and stuff, and this water starts coming up, we have to reschedule everything.
Okay.
But there's no, you can't walk out there.
Yeah. What Dave was asking, didn't we do something about it, or take a look?
So
at
we
it?
discussed this when we did the rock and the landscaping around the court. The problem is when those courts were installed, in between each lane, you've got a big trough, and it's all concrete. In the middle and at the lowest point of that trough is a drain. Below that is a small little box that just seeps into the sand. So there's no line that can be cleared, there's no way
There's no
for the
real drainage is
water.
what you're saying.
Correct.
it's a French drain.
So basically, it's just an opening so that something can basically seep into the ground. Now, when you've had a day or two of rain or a heavy downpour, it's not gonna percolate fast enough, it's just gonna take a while to drain. So to fix that, you're either gonna have to bore underneath there, and I don't even know if you can bore with like corrugated pipe or anything like that, it's too big of a hole, or you're gonna have to cut into the concrete. And that's kind of what we talked about last time when we were doing the landscaping, is that it's not an easy fix.
So I have a question, and Frank, you may know more so than I, because the cracks and everything like that and I went out there as well, you see on the courts themselves and also going across in the areas where the drains are, a lot of that can be partially from the settling because of the undermining of the water in the drains. So is there any way, I guess, I think we should look at seeing what it would cost to do that properly, the drains. Because if we resurface and you still got an underlying condition or problem, it's not solving the whole issue.
well, looking at those courts, I didn't see any major cracks or elevation changes or major settling. You have normal cracking that you get on sports courts from moisture and heat and cold contraction. Those will be, when they grind it and resurface, those will go away. But there are some cracks in the concrete around it, which are going to cause expansion and contraction, which will eventually crack the sports court surface. It's similar to all of the courts that we have. So I don't think you're ever gonna get away with that, but the drainage thing, I mean, that's a big project. It's not gonna be cheap.
It is kind of a side note, but when I was over there looking at it, I understand that those troughs between the courts, I was surprised to see that there's no like yellow safety paint right across where it goes up in elevation.
That's above my pay grade.
Right, but I'm just saying, I'm surprised because when I walked into those troughs to look, I didn't notice that, and my shoe got caught in that, and I could see somebody easily. It's a trip hazard without painting a yellow line.
I'm more worried about the edges of the concrete that are chipped already, and they could cause a serious injury if somebody either slips on it, falls on it, or just.
I think for minor things on the surface and even that yellow strip of safety paint, you know, that falls squarely with our maintenance to handle that without.
So does the drains as far as trying to clean them out. We need to get them cleaned out so the water can go in there But we get like a couple of weeks ago, we got, what, 2 or 3 inches of rain? It was flooded Monday still. So.
Yeah, if I
water
remember
has to
right,
go somewhere.
it rained from Friday till about 8 o'clock before you guys started playing.
Yeah.
And again, there's nowhere to clean out. You lift that plastic piece up, you dig down a couple feet, and all you've done is remove sand, and there's just sand and more sand and more sand. So if we pull a bunch of that sand out of there, you're going to cause water to go, and sand's going to come from underneath the courts to fill in that hole, which is then going to cause the courts to settle, which is then going to cause bigger cracks and more problems. The only way you're going to fix the drainage problem is to put drain lines through there. Yeah, and that's either going to cause, like we said, boring or cutting the concrete. Those are your two options for that. And I should also point out that it's been that way for 7 years. So I don't know that all of a sudden it's a bigger problem than it was before. I mean, I'll do whatever you guys want. We can get bids to have that done. I just want everybody to be clear about what you're working with on those courts, because it's the same thing with the bocce courts. Those drains they don't go anywhere. They're just holes. That's it.
Dave, do you have anything to add, one way or the other?
I'm interested, the 90 bid says that these courts were resurfaced previously.
No, I think that's a standard boilerplate thing saying that they won't warranty any bubbling in the surface if they've been resurfaced by anybody, but they were installed by 90 in 2017.
That's
and
what I thought,
yeah, they're the only ones that have worked on it.
That's what I thought, because I was on the board then, and
Yeah.
and approved the construction of those courts, after we had a vote of the community, by the way.
Right,
But I'm also concerned because the 90 proposal says surfacing courts will not level or remove any variations from the surface of the courts. No patching to be done on any cracks. Cracks in courts may appear after surfacing due in part to the expansion and contraction of the concrete slab from daily variations in ambient temperatures. It gives me pause, since they've got all those caveats in there,
Mm-hmm.
and even with their higher price for doing the work.
So that, just so you're aware, that's the same language they used in the tennis and the pickleball ones.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a standard thing, and the reason they're saying that is because they're going to take up that surface and they're going to fill it, but they're not going to do anything to address actual concrete cracks. And I'm not a concrete expert, but when you try and fix a concrete crack, you basically have to cut around that, re-pour that, and then find a way to tie those two together so it doesn't shift. That's the proper way to fix it. At least that's what I've been told with foundations. But that's basically just them saying that if they put a new surface on there and it cracks later, they're not.
Come to them.
Yeah, there's nothing really they can do to prevent
Well, that's
that.
kind of
Chris,
sad.
I think I'm in agreement with Frank that, we fix the foundation before we worry about the roof. And I think that's where we ought to concentrate our efforts and looking how we can solve the drainage issue.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's go around the table. Okay, then we'll come back. Mary Kay?
I agree. I think we should fix the drainage issue before we start resurfacing anything.
Barb?
Same, I agree.
Absolutely.
Well,
I didn't get to talk.
you're getting ready to, but I'm going before you.
Oh,
I
thought
agree
you were-
with Frank.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just gonna say you were gonna be done.
Yeah.
I know this isn't the same issue, but it's a similar issue, and there was an issue with the bocce courts, and the water stayed there and stayed there and stayed there, and it's a hazard, and I just worry that people are going to get hurt when I hear about water puddling and pooling and people wanting to get out. I mean, I want to get on the pickleball courts, but you gotta be smart about it too. So I'm with, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's get the irrigation looked into first.
Frank?
So one thing, sometimes you gotta think outside the box, and I'm not sure if this would work without taking another look at it, but I've seen sometimes where you've had French drains that don't work as well as initially intended, that if we could take the drain cover off and take, say, a 4-foot piece of rebar or whatever, and you hammer that down a few times, you're basically opening that bottom of the French drain up more, and maybe allowing more water to percolate down farther. And that might solve the problem without any cost. And I'm not saying it's gonna work surefire, but it doesn't cost anything to do that as a first step.
So, yeah, we have had John open that up and dig down in there to try and open that up again, but you're not opening anything.
Is there
It's
any
sand.
stone or pebbles?
No, it's sand.
It's just sand.
Sand.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, so it's not really a French driveway?
No,
No, not even that.
no.
That should have been done when it was built.
Exactly,
The drain should have been put in there when it was built going towards the street somewhere or out in the streets.
exactly. Well, I'll go ahead and speak for the group, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think we just should table this proposal for right now. Let's go ahead and have Josh look into finding out if we can find a company that's gonna tell us, hey, this is what we need to do as far as drainage, so we can go forward, and then we can come back and take a look at this. If that's okay with everybody,
Yep.
okay, we'll table this for now.
Pat, you were signed up to speak after, do you?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Semper Fi.
I will
Sorry,
say
that's-
quickly,
yeah.
I will say quickly that in the villages, there's a lot of gutter companies that bore under, walkways every day
Okay.
and do this. And if the gutter guys can do it, it's not an engineering feat. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so it's done every day.
Good to know.
Okay, there you go. Maybe he's even got an idea who to call. Okay, moving right along. DWC tree proposal. This was quite a proposal, and I've got to say that they also had some help from the tree ad hoc committee. It wasn't in the tree ad hoc committee's purview as far as talking, and we'll get into this a little bit later, about mistletoe, but that is a major problem. And so DWC came out, and go ahead and take it from there, Josh.
So they normally break the community up into different sections. This is the biggest section of the rotation. It's all the way down Meandering Trail, and then the common areas off of that. So it includes areas like over by Church Pond and all the common areas that are attached to that. So we have them look at that section. We have them look around the trees around the clubhouse. And then we also have any of the resident issues that have been reported to me throughout the year. We have them look at those as well. So that's the breakdown of what you're seeing here. The biggest reason for this jump in cost is there's about 15,000 of it towards mistletoe removal or dealing with mistletoe specific issues.
Yep.
The normal, what we would have as normal tree maintenance is only about 26,000, which is, like I said, slightly higher than last year, which was 20, but that's because this is a bigger area that we're dealing with. And your trees get bigger every year, which costs more money to maintain.
I understand, do we have anybody to speak on this?
Nobody.
Okay, Diane, do you want to start the discussion on this since you're the money person?
Well, I guess my understanding of mistletoe is that, even though it's beautiful at Christmas time, it kills trees. And over time, this mistletoe continues to grow and continues to get in the interior of the tree. Right. So that if we're able to save trees on the front end to clean them up, that avoids us taking the tree out in the long run. So the cost of removing a tree in the long run versus paying it now to get the mistletoe out. The question I have is, even though if we get all this mistletoe out, probably isn't gonna avoid it to happen again in the future, right?
No, it's not. What happens
This
is,
is just an ongoing issue that we have to deal with. Right.
2 months ago, just so you know, I was one of these people like, oh, that's a tree. It's got a trunk and there's some leaves up there. Oh, that must be a tree. Since I'm the liaison to the tree ad hoc committee, I have unbelievably learned so much. And basically mistletoe, how it's spread, is the birds come in, they eat the berries, and then they poop on some part of the other tree or another tree. So the whole idea is exactly what you said. If you can stay on top of the mistletoe to begin with, you don't have it spread so much. But part of the problem is we haven't maybe been as aggressive to the mistletoe. The more aggressive we're toward the mistletoe, the less issue we have with a tree being completely overrun by it. So yeah, this year's kind of an eye-opener because we haven't done as much. But yeah, so that's it.
So basically, when you look at the numbers, we're spending about $15,000 to clean up years of issues, potentially years of issues with mistletoe. It saves us from pulling trees out in the long run. Some trees are gonna have to be removed, they're too far gone, is my understanding as well. So do we have the money to do this? We have the money to maintain our community. We are a nature community. We wanna make it as beautiful as possible. I'm in favor of moving forward with this proposal.
Frank?
Just a few questions. I'm a little bit familiar with mistletoe. My previous home, I had a beautiful camphor tree that had a big thing of mistletoe in it, and you know, we joked about it. I never did anything about it. I sold that house and moved here 7 years ago. I drove by that house the other day, and the tree still looks gorgeous, and so does that one big round thing of mistletoe up at the top that no one's done anything about. I'm torn on this because part of me kind of thinks that if we didn't do anything about the mistletoe more than what we do normally now, because we have a professional arborist, everything would look pretty much the way it does now, back, you know, forward when we're not here anymore. So I guess my question.
How long are you planning on being around?
I'm
I plan on being around.
I'm 65. I never thought I'd see that. My God. So, Josh, can you explain to me a little bit more about how our arborist has done work? Because it's my understanding is that when a tree needs to be trimmed, and one of the things they look at is for mistletoe, they will cut off that offending limb. If there's so many limbs that would have to be cut off because of the mistletoe, they would say, just leave it because eventually that tree is gonna die and we'll take care of it at that time. I'm just not, I guess my question is the arborist as aggressive as we're seeing here with mistletoe in other communities that they take care of as we are thinking about here? Because I had to sit down when I saw this estimate.
No, they're not as aggressive because most people aren't willing to pay for it. What the normal practice has been in the past is that they will do when they're working in that section, if that tree's in the area that they're gonna be doing like elevation lifts or thinning out, they'll typically target the branches that have mistletoe on them as the areas to thin out. But as far as like 100% removal from any of those trees, they haven't done that in the past.
So that methodology has served us fairly well in the past 20 years, and I kind of like the $26,000 estimate better than the $41,000 estimate.
So whether it served you well or not depends on who you're asking, because some people say that, well, that's why we have so many trees with that much mistletoe. But I get what you're saying. Well, that's been the past practice, and it hasn't.
If I could just, I'm sorry, just let me add into this too. When I first moved here, there was a gentleman that lived here who would go up in the trees and cut the mistletoe out on his own, a resident, and nobody stopped him, and that was great. And that happened for about 5 years, and then he moved on one way or the other. I'm not sure if he passed or whatever.
He fell out of the tree.
Yeah.
Fell out of the tree.
He's not with us.
No,
any
he's
longer.
not. He didn't fall out of the tree.
He's not
But
with
anyway, he's not here. So that was not done, whether we agreed or not. But that's what happened for the first 5 years, and that's why it was slowed down. I actually cut some mistletoe out of a tree right down the trail from us for many, many years until I just couldn't reach it anymore. But yeah, that's the only way. And once the mistletoe gets into the trunk of the tree, you can't save the tree. It's gone. So we have to look at is if we leave these trees with a lot of mistletoe on them, what'll happen is the birds eat the seeds, poop on another tree or another part of that tree and it just gets worse. But I'll be to you, Mary Kate. Dave, you got anything?
I realize this is a lot of money we're talking about, but I believe in saving our trees. As some of the other members of the board have said, this is a nature community. I regretted the fact that we've lost a number of trees over the preceding years that have not been replaced. For instance, I'm looking out now at the main drag here. And I'm in favor of spending the money if we have it available in the budget to fulfill this requirement.
Okay, Mary Kay?
Should we be adding mistletoe to our list of invasives? Because there's nothing we can do to stop it. We can't stop the birds from eating the berries.
I've already spent all that money, so.
But I'm asking, if this is a problem that we're gonna see going forward, and we can't do anything to stop the mistletoe, we can't stop the birds,
Yeah.
should we be adding this to our list of invasives?
If you're gonna plan on doing it going forward, that's probably a good idea.
That's a good
I agree.
point.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, Barb?
As I'm looking at this proposal, I might be missing something, but it looks to me like only about a third of it has to do with mistletoe. The rest are tree work, remove moss by 30%, large deadwood, grind miscellaneous roots on the walkway, elevate at lift station. There's
You're right,
About
your
a
number's
third.
about right, yeah, it's about 15,000 for the mistletoe.
right.
And 26 for the rest, so.
So I'm not saying that. I guess the rest of the work is about the normal
Yeah.
annual contract amount, and that's what this is. Is that accurate?
Correct, yeah, we budgeted 30,000 for this line item.
Yep.
It, obviously with the additional work, we didn't budget for that, but that's okay.
So, I mean, we could accept it without the mistletoe work, but I agree with several other of the board, is that let's take care of this. And in fact, under the number 15 where it says mistletoe, a lot of it isn't just mistletoe, it says remove the tree, remove 4 trees, removal, so it's not all just mistletoe. There's a
Well,
lot
yeah,
of work.
it's just removing the trees that are
Affected.
gone. at
Gone,
that point,
right.
To try and get rid of the more chance for infestation.
And as we drove to the meeting today, my husband pointed out that tree that's by the overflow parking lot, holy smokes, that looks terrible. And that's, I'm sure that's on this list. Let's get it cleaned up. I mean, if we've got the money, it's not gonna affect our HOA fee because it's in the budget, so we've already bid off that. Why are you laughing? So let's go ahead and do it. I mean, we live here, we want it to look nice, I'm for it.
Did I hear a motion?
Terry, go right ahead.
The only question I have, I'm for cleaning it up and doing what we need to do and saving our trees. And I'm sure the arborist did take a look at this part. I know when going through and doing a little bit of research myself, it says normally that if you have mistletoe on the trees, it takes about 10 to 15 years to kill the tree. So we don't want the trees to die. But of the ones we are identifying, did the arborist, I'm sure they did take a really good hard look at that. I just wanna make sure we're not in that.
So there's two parts to it, right? There's the one where you can possibly save the tree, and then the other part is to stop more potential spread.
Right.
So some of them, she recommended just removing the tree.
Right.
Some of them, she recommended removing the mistletoe. Now, whether that's going to save that tree and that mistletoe is never gonna come back, that's really impossible to
No, we
tell.
never know that.
Or there might be some tests that determine that, but we don't have the capability of doing that. So basically, you're just trying to do 2 things by the work she suggested, but she did look at every individual tree.
Okay, I do agree with Mary Kay. I think that moving forward, if our plan is to be very proactive, we do need to look at it as like an invasive and factor that into the budget moving forward next year.
Now, here's another thought. If we do this closer to Christmas, we take the mistletoe, at least,
Have a craft fair selling mistletoe.
Well, if a piece this big gets a nice kiss under the mistletoe, imagine what a big chunk of it.
That's right. Hey, not a bad idea.
So have we ever historically lost a tree decisively from mistletoe?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
we have.
it's there.
Now, just so you know, I couldn't have said that a month ago. I can now, because I've been out with the tree ad hoc folks. And they point stuff out specifically. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, I see what you're talking about exactly.
So
motion?
where is the additional money coming from?
I would propose that we let it run it through the budget this year, as an overage. The budget's an estimate, okay? And at this point in time, we're looking pretty healthy. That doesn't mean that it's actually gonna be zero at the end of the year, but it's too soon to say that, you know, it's gonna cause an overage on the budget. Again, it's an estimate. Our interest income is up $10,000 this year. That could cover that. So I'm just saying,
Yeah, I would
let
leave it on
run.
the tree maintenance line item.
I would.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll just be an overage for
It's gonna be an
that, for that
overage.
line item, but, you know, there's a good chance that something else like payroll or whatever will be less.
Exactly.
It'll absorb that.
Well, our insurance is gonna be less, for sure, because we just approved it. So there are opportunities, and because our money's being invested longer than we want, at bigger amounts than we want, because of the building renovation delay, some of this can be covered through that. So,
Is there anybody that wanted to talk about this subject in
No.
particular?
We've talked enough.
Can I make a motion?
Sure, make a motion.
I move that we accept the proposal from DWC Outdoors for the cleanup of all the trees on the mistletoe.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, for
$41,350.
$41,350.
For 41,000.
Yeah,
Yes.
To be taken
second.
from GL 6550.
okay.
tree maintenance.
Any other discussion? Nobody, okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say aye, or nay? Sorry,
Or something.
something, yeah. Okay, moving right along.
Thank you.
And thanks to the tree ad hoc, and I know it wasn't part of what you were supposed to do, but you guys kind of stepped in and we appreciate that. Okay, we got a bad air conditioner. So, DeSantis HVAC unit replacement proposal. Frank, I'm just gonna pick on you again, cause you're kind of the guy, you put something out there and I appreciate that.
Sure.
If you'd like to start that?
Yes, I have some mixed feelings about this.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you wanna start?
No,
No, okay, Frank, yeah.
So I will say in the past, we had to change our service maintenance on our AC units from months because they know they gave up commercial and they consider us commercial, even though we had like 17 residential AC units serving this place. They dumped us. So this board chose a while back DeSantis. Now I've been happy with DeSantis. I even hired them when I needed a new AC at my house, and they did excellent work. I had some misgivings about this proposal. The first one, the recommended system was a company named Run True. I asked my son, because he's got almost 20 years experience in HVAC. He's never heard of that company. The alternative was Train, and that's what I actually have. I like that company better than some others. The only problem I had with this is the issue of the line set. DeSantis plans on using the existing line set, which is not commonly done. Now, I don't know how long the existing line set is, but they're rarely longer than 50 feet. This is kind of like buying a new car and putting the old tires on it. And if they're not going to warranty the current line set, and to change the line set from R22 to R410A, you have to purge the line and clean it out with chemicals and things like that. There's virtually no increased labor cost in changing the line set as opposed to using the existing line set. If that new line set was done, then everything would be covered under warranty, and you'd have all new insulation, which would make sure you don't have any condensation problems that could ruin drywall. And that's just the right way to go. I guess I encourage Josh Josh has done an excellent job dealing with them, going back and forth. It was a little troubling how much more they said the new line set would cost, when I know I could go on Amazon today and buy a 50-foot line set for $300, and when they say upwards of $1,500 for a new line set, that's atrocious. I think they're just making their gross margin profit higher because this is a horizontal unit which is difficult to install. I think I'd like to go back to them and have a nice come to Jesus talk with them and see if we could sharpen that a little bit. But all that being said, we should replace this. I would go with the train, and I'm shocked that we have AC units here in Legacy that are 26 years old. That is 10 years more than you could expect. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'm sorry I took so long.
No, that's good. That's what we need. Dave?
I, like Frank, am a firm believer in DeSantis. I had them replace my HVAC. They did a fantastic job. Really good quality workmanship. They were thorough. They sent a team of 3 people out to do it. I mean, they were there on time, and they got the job done, and the equipment's been working great. I think Trane is a quality product. I had Trane air conditioners put in my home up north. I stand behind Trane as a quality product. I'm with Frank though. I think a new line set would be appropriate in this instance, rather than testing and changing over the for want of a better term, the Freon that's used. I think we should go back to them, as Frank suggested, and have them sharpen their pencils and see if we can't get them, especially since we've got a maintenance contract, so we got a little leverage from my perspective, and go back to them and see if we can't get them to give us a more favorable price on replacing that line set.
So he didn't actually quote 1,500. He said it would be between 800 and 1,500. I asked him for a specific price prior to the meeting. I haven't gotten that, so I don't know what that is, and I don't know how long the line is or any of the details.
Right.
So, I mean, to sit here and say that it's too expensive, I mean, I don't know. We don't have bids to compare it to. You know, I appreciate your all past experience, but you're not the one bidding on the job, and you're not doing it right now for a living. So if another company comes out here and says that this is how much they would charge, and you compare the two, that's really what we should be looking at. You know, what something sells on Amazon has nothing to do with installation and all that.
And I would agree with that. I'm just using that as a quick reference. I think we should stick with DeSantis. I appreciate all the work you've done on this, Josh. Let's just see if they do come back with a specific cost for the line set, which they should be able to easily give, because before they even give an estimate, they will measure for everything, because they need to measure for the drain pan, they need to measure for the transitions to the ductwork, so they know that number. So I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. I just think that we should get that price from them firm for the line set, and it might be within acceptable limits. And if it is, I would say that we should proceed having this done with due haste.
Mary Kay?
Go ahead.
I'm in agreement with what Frank said. I mean, he's expert here, I think. He knows more about it than any of us, so.
Barb?
My question is, does this fall in line with the overall building project? Is this the type of air conditioner we're going to be using for our new renovations? There was a lot of talk about split air conditionings and all kinds of stuff around the air conditionings. I know it needs to be replaced, but is this the type of thing that will?
You want to take this? You want me to?
No, go ahead.
So it's the unit is here in the social hall. Where you have your systems at here, you're probably not going to move them because the building's just not set up to have them anywhere else. And the walls in here aren't changing much. So the only thing that will probably change in here is upgraded units and moving around of thermostats and the type of thermostats. So like if it's one of the units out there, which it is, they're probably all going to be out there. Now, as far as brand, I think that's largely going to depend on whoever wins the contract to do the work, because they all tend to favor their own carrier. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So it's hard to tell, but realistically, you're not going to do anything with these buildings for 6 months, and you're not going to want to operate this building with, you know, one unit down. It's going to be miserable this summer.
Bad.
So.
Good, Gary?
I think we should move forward with it, and Josh should, I don't know, if we can go ahead and make the motion to accept the bid and, note with the addition of the new line set. But I think if we're gonna approve it, because this is over the spending amount, we've gotta decide.
And should come from reserves, which
Yeah,
you guys need to
that's
document.
Right.
Reserve.
Right, so I would say that up to a certain dollar amount, we are approved with the line set possibly. And if it doesn't come back with that, then again, then we've gotta hold another special meeting or something to approve it.
Chris, just in consonance with what Terry just said, I think, Josh quoted us an $800 to $1,500 possibility, right, for the line set. So maybe we approve an amount today that would include the lower amount, the $800 additional, not to exceed $7,600. And to accept this and let Josh use his negotiation.
You could do that,
So
but if it goes in higher, we're talking about this a
I
month from
think
now.
we should go with 8,300 and let Josh do some magic with the vendor like he's always done, and hope that it comes in lower. Go with the high end and let Josh do the work with the vendor. The higher end, because
83.
not to exceed
Okay.
8,300,
I-
and let
I
Josh
recall.
do,
Yeah.
let Josh try to work it with the vendor, however that works out. It needs to be done. We need this line in. I'm not an AC person, but I think what we need to do is move forward on it, let Josh do his job. Let's not table this to wait, because if it does come in higher, we're gonna have to have a meeting, and we don't wanna have another meeting to do that, so.
Yeah, this is definitely like you said, a reserve item, and I think that's a great idea, and I agree with everybody. We need, if we're putting in new stuff, we need new stuff all the way
Diane,
around.
could you make a motion then?
I would like to make a motion to approve the spending on the DeSantis AC for an amount not to exceed $8,300 to be charged against the reserves. Is that okay?
I'll second that motion. Any more discussion? Yes, ma'am?
Should it also include the fact we're selecting the train?
Yeah,
We
we're
need
taking
to
that.
make-
It's
We'll take
trained
it.
with the new
We
line
like
set.
train.
With the new
I have a
line
train.
set.
It's been good to
That's
me.
what he has. If you want us to read it, we can.
I really like my train too, so.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
All right,
take care of
so
us.
you're approving the bid from DeSantis HVAC for the train unit with additional line set not to exceed $8,300.
I like that one.
That's taken out of the reserves.
I'll second that motion.
I already seconded
Well, I'll third that
it.
motion.
Well, any more discussion? Was
Thanks,
there anybody
Frank.
that signed up? Okay, we got a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Josh, if I could just add that they included a new thermostat, but if we are going to have new thermostats for the rest of the building when they do the renovation, if the people vote for it, then if they could use the existing thermostat, which are digital, they're newer thermostats, maybe we could save money using that current thermostat until we know the status of all the other thermostats that we're gonna do soon.
Okay, I'll discuss that with them.
Okay, thank you.
Makes sense. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Okay, next, we have an update from the tree ad hoc. Just so that everybody understands, the board of directors created an tree ad hoc committee that is surveying the trees in the common areas of Legacy and preparing a plan to ensure Legacy has a new generation of trees in place to continue Legacy's standing as a nature community. There was 3 things that we charged this committee with. 1, preparing a list for the different species of native trees and map their locations in our community. 2, propose new trees to take the place of trees that have recently been removed. 3, identify new areas that would benefit from a diverse selection of Florida native trees. And the committee was to prepare a report for the whole community and report to the board of directors by this meeting. There was 3 people initially put on this group, or on this committee, and their first meeting, they had 2 other people that they asked to join, which they did. there's 4 people on the committee that know an awful lot about trees. There's 1 person on the committee and their board liaison, like I said earlier, we said, oh, it's got a big trunk and leaves, it must be a tree. Todd Ketchline has done a great job being their secretary and also kind of keeping them on track from his experience as what once has been a board member. But these people, and if I've heard this once, a meeting, I've heard it probably 15 times. And it's been amazing to me that the Tree Ad Hoc Committee, outside of John Bradford, who's come over from the ENC, it's been amazing to me that nobody else has showed up to see what they're doing. I'm amazed, and what they have been doing has been outstanding. And like I said, if I've heard it once, I've heard it 15 times every meeting. I do not want this to be from one person. This is from the committee, and they have worked diligently. They also realized the scope of what they had to do, that there was no way in the world that they could have a report back to us by the end of February for the whole community. So their board liaison, by the way, I'm the board liaison with that committee. I said, let's just work on the front part to begin with. This is where a lot of people come in. This is what they see. So you're getting an initial report from the Trees Ad Hoc Committee from their chairperson. And I'm done.
Thank you, Chris. First off, we were given a big task, but we asked for the task, and it's been a lot of fun. I do want to recognize the committee members who are here. We had their names up there earlier, but we've got Pat Summers, Ingrid Offby, Jan Greer, Todd Coughlin, and we asked ENC if they would loan us John Bradford, and he has been immensely helpful, and he's been an integral part of the committee. So, I want to thank everybody for that. What we did is we started at the front, and we worked our way in, identifying areas where we had lost trees and areas that either had no trees or could benefit from the addition of trees. So what you're looking at here, if you go back one please, is we put together a list of trees that we thought needed to be added or planted, and we listed them by their botanical names, so there was no confusion of what we were asking for, and listed the specifications of these trees, of how big they get, to give everybody an idea of what these trees would look like if you're not familiar by the name of them. Okay, next one. We broke it into areas. We broke the whole front part of the community into 8 areas and identified them. We did an inventory, so this is the inventory of the entry along US 27, and we're not proposing to add any trees in this area, but we identified the total number of trees and what they are in this area. Next. Area 2. This is an area right behind Rodello's moving in, and one of the problems we have in the community is road noise. We have a lot of road noise that comes in from US 27, and that road noise actually carries through the community a great distance. An idea was put forth, rather than build a sound wall or a big ugly barrier, we could actually use red cedar trees and plant them in a line at the edge of the property of Legacy behind the Rodello's complex, and those cedar trees would grow up and eventually touch each other, providing a natural barrier and natural wall. We actually had, please go back, I'll stay on this slide for a minute. We took 2 of the shorter members of the community and stood them next to one of these cedar trees to give you an idea what the cedar tree would look like when it grows up. I was taken over at Pear Park. So that is our proposal of Area 2, to put those trees in to provide a sound barrier, a visual barrier, and actually as habitat for wildlife to nest or to take shelter in. Next. This is what we call the Great Legacy Boulevard Desert. This is the open area where there's currently nothing. There's weeds that Legacy mows, but there's pretty much nothing in this area. And we got creative and laid out a plan of planting native trees in this area and to put a path, a walking path through those trees as an area for people to walk, and as also an area that you could cut through and actually walk down to Rodella's or the commercial complex down there. We're not advocating a new trail. We're not advocating even a formal walkway. It would be, we'd kill off the grass and walk on what's left. So it would require no additional cost for this path, and it would require no maintenance. This is the current area just north of the desert where we have lots of trees. One of the issues in this area is we've lost trees over the years, and we continue to lose trees in this area. And if I may jump off on the mistletoe issue briefly, we are going to have some loss of trees in this area, and I believe some of the proposal to be removed due to mistletoe killing trees. So what I did, or we did, I'm sorry, is identify the trees that are currently in there, and then are proposing a mix of new native trees to fill in the gaps and to provide some extra, some backup trees, so when we continue to lose other trees that are either infested with the mistletoe or just die out with age, we have a replacement in place of what to grow in there. Item next. We've lost some trees in the boulevard over the years out in the median, and we're advocating to replace, there's 3 live oaks that are missing out in the median, and to replace the live oaks to provide continuity, and in case we lose another tree, we have a new tree growing in its place. That's kind of the theme of our presentation, is that we have a lot of beautiful mature trees in Legacy, but we really don't have the next crop, the next group of trees growing to take their place. So if we do have a storm, or if we do have a disease outbreak, we're gonna have Legacy desert all over the community. So right now we're trying to get out ahead of that and propose replacing some of these trees that are currently missing. Next. As part of our proposal, most of our ponds are what I would call naked in the community, suffering from a lack of trees. One of the things we'd like to see and are proposing are trees that grow in wetlands or grow in wet areas and actually thrive in those areas. One of the added benefits of those trees is that they will stabilize the bank and stabilize the edge of the water. So we're advocating in this location putting bald cypress trees in. Bald cypress is one of the signature trees of Florida. They can live 1,000 years. They can grow in pure standing water. They don't care about being flooded. They thrive on that. And I know the ponds have been a contentious issue in the past, so we're advocating putting the trees on the street side of this pond so it doesn't block any of the views or block any of the backyards of any of the residents that live along this pond. We specifically wanted to stay away from that because it has been a point of contention, and we think as a group that the trees would serve very well in the boulevard between Legacy Pond and Legacy Boulevard. Same way with Clock Tower Pond. This pond is definitely naked for trees, and we've advocated the same thing, of planting cypress and holly and maples along 3 sides of the pond, but leaving the south side open where the boaters currently use and where the proposed dock is being considered. So once again, adding trees that will beautify the area, provide habitat for wildlife, and actually protect the bank of these ponds. These are the medians around the social hall. Most of these trees are in good shape. There is one naked spot down by the call box on the east gate, and we're advocating adding a live oak in that location. As part of this proposal, there have been some issues in the past with vendors planting trees, and we thought it would be a good idea to include a best practice of how to plant a tree and basic standards for those who don't normally plant trees of some rules to follow in order for these trees to succeed. So that's why we provided this at the end. To recap, what we're asking for is native trees to be added to the community for the future of the community. Whether or not we proceed is obviously going to be the board and the community's choice, but we're not done. We're going to continue working other stretches of the community. Right now, we think we're going to head down Meandering Trail and go towards the North Gate and evaluate, inventory, and try to find some additional areas to plant trees. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions from anybody on the board?
Do we have an do we have an estimated cost?
No, we did not go down that avenue. That was not part of the task that we were given, and we purposely steered clear of that. I will add in the proposal, most of these trees we're asking for are 7-gallon size to keep the cost down and to make the trees easier to plant and easier to establish. But no, we do not have a cost.
How big is a 7-gallon tree?
Most of the 7-gallon trees would be about shoulder high on me, plus or minus.
4 to 5.
4 to 5 feet. Some of these areas we've advocated 15-gallon trees, which basically be my height. For areas we'd like to see the tree grow a little bit faster, but as a rule of thumb, a 7-gallon and a 15-gallon tree, within about 3 to 4 years, both of them will be the same size. The smaller tree will catch up to the larger tree. So what we're advocating is many, because there's a whole list of them here, smaller trees. But if they're planted correctly and watered initially, they'll all catch up in size and will save a lot of money, as opposed to going out and buying lots of large, expensive trees, which are very difficult to establish and require a lot of water, and we're trying to avoid both of those. But no, back to your original question, we do not have a cost.
Yeah, Mary Kay.
So I went through and I added up all of the new trees, and there's 269 new trees that you're recommending that we plant. Are you suggesting that this be done in one fell swoop or in phases?
We are advocating, this is what we'd like to see in these areas, and we're going to leave it to the board to decide on how they want to do it. We would like to see the whole project taken care of and established, but right now, that's not my call in splitting this up.
So my next question is, Diane, if we should decide to do this, where are we taking the money from?
So I was thinking about that, I knew that question would come up. We do have surplus from last year, and it exceeds our buffer for a contingency requirement. I don't know what this is gonna add up to. I would propose that we get it, I love that it's done in phases, or not phases, but areas. And we can get each area priced and decide how much we want to work on, if we do it all at once, or if we work on certain areas first. But I would propose that it would come from the surplus from last year, in excess of the requirement for the retained earnings coverage and taxes that we have to pay.
And one thing we have to be aware of, because this is going to be a project, even if we break the project up into, let's say, 2 or 3 years, the total project, if it's above $50,000, we're going to have to go through to the community.
Right.
Even though it's broken up into 2 or 3 years, it's all part of one project. So understand that too. Terry, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I'm gonna be devil's advocate, and I have some questions, I guess, for you. First of all, when we're looking along the ponds, I know one of the proposals was to plant holly.
Yes.
Okay. looking that up, and my concern, because they do have the little red berries, correct, when they bloom, and the holly trees that are proposed, the ones I looked at. My concern is we have a lot of people that have animals that they walk along there, and hopefully they will not be eating the berries, but they are poisonous in nature. I think when we're looking at some of these plants and we're looking at putting them, and there again, it's just my opinion, we need to take those kind of things into consideration. That's one. And I know coming into the community, having that beautiful view of the ponds is very important. I know to me that was one of the things that drew me to the community. I'm not saying that it may be an overabundance on that side, but I know you mentioned planting them along the boulevard area there and not on the backside, because of course we didn't want to disturb the homeowner's view of the ponds. Well, I think it still applies to the other side as well, coming off of Legacy. So those are some of the concerns I personally have. The other thing is, how are we gonna water them? Are we gonna, we need to look at or consider if it even exists, contractors who bid this job out for the planning or whatever. I know in South Florida, again, that's South Florida, that there are companies that will warranty the trees for X period of time, and if they die, they'll replace them. I mean, we're talking a lot of money just on the investment of the trees alone. So these are kind of the things I think we need to look at. I think you've done an amazing job. I think the report is extremely thorough. I think the board has a lot to digest for sure. And then the other thing would be, we plant them, they grow, that's wonderful. Josh, what about the cost for maintaining these trees and cutting them and pruning them and what have you? What is our current budget? And if we're adding, or thinking about just in the beginning phases, adding 200 and some trees.
Well, you probably won't have much to do the first,
In the beginning.
5-10 years, depending on how fast they grow. But it will add up down the road. I mean, right now you spend 30, or in this year, 41,000 on tree maintenance. So if you, double the amount of trees you have, you can anticipate possibly doubling your budget.
Right, so we could be going from 40-some thousand potentially to 80-some thousand a year, or 60-some thousand a year.
We'd probably have to get an updated bid for landscaping, mowing those areas too.
Right,
'Cause
and
that's gonna be.
right, and I'm not saying any of this is totally out of the question, but I think and there again, devil's advocate, totally different scenario or subject. We've got the report coming back on the roads, updating reserve study, and I think we need to find out what we're looking at monetarily with that, so we'll have a clear understanding budget-wise what we're facing, and then be able to move forward with possibly planting some plants and even getting, someone to consult as far as, the trees we're putting in where, that do this for a living.
Greg, did you work with the arborist on this at all?
No, we did not work with the arborist. The only thing that we worked with, we gave Josh a list of trees that we identified with the mistletoe and worked through him with that list, but we did not directly deal with the arborist.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying with some of Terry's concerns that maybe we should consult with the arborist or show them this plan and see if they have any recommendations or suggestions for alternatives.
Oh, yeah, one of the things, when this first came out, I did talk to Chris. I know there are also individuals who are landscape architects or planners that have gone back into existing communities and or developed new communities. And I know we want to give it definitely a facelift. I agree we need to have more trees and what have you, but we potentially might also want to look at seeing or getting a price for someone to come in and review it and give us an idea. The groundwork is here. Like I said, you all have done an amazing job, but get their opinion. They're gonna know what it's gonna totally look like after the fact as they get bigger and what have you. I think it's just we're gonna spend that kind of money, we need to spend maybe a little bit more and really get a good take on it.
Frank, you got any 2 cents here? Sure.
First, I'd like to say, Greg, this was an amazing job. The professionalism here would be, would work in any big multi-billion-dollar corporate presentation. So what you guys did was amazing. You will be very, very missed. It reminds me of the old saying, there's 2 best times to plant a tree, 30 years ago and today. I think we're gonna need more resident input on some of these things in terms of maybe the sound barrier on that one side down there. There might be residents that have some input there, looking at the ponds. But I do think that some of these are a no-brainer. I think we should replace the trees that we've lost. I also think, I noticed there was 1 or 2 places that it showed a stump. I think it is very disingenuous of Legacy that we require residents to remove stumps, but we don't do that ourselves. That's wrong. So some of the ideas you have here are like a total yes, no-brainer. And then some of these are, will require more looking into. We're fortunate that we could afford all the needs that Legacy has, and we could also afford some of the wants. And that's where the scrutiny comes in. So thank you very much. Amazing presentation.
Thank you from the whole committee. It's been a fun experience working with this, and
Dave?
I guess I'll add, wasn't a direct question, but I'd like to add a comment, is something that Chris had said as well, that obviously this is a complete report with a total in it, but we did break it down into pieces so it was more easy to digest rather than one giant bill. We did break it in pieces on purpose.
I as well, and I'm impressed by the effort that was put into this study and recommendation and presentation, and I thank you for that, as well as the other members of the committee. I like the concept. I would like to see this put into either a 3 or a 5-year plan where we break it out into phases, and I think I've heard other board members kind of suggest that idea. And then we can price it out. We can price phase 1 out and deal with it. And then, a year following phase 2, phase 3, however many years we want to break it down into. I think, as Frank suggested, that we need to move forward in the short term with replacing the trees that we've lost today. I think that's a given. And then from that point forward, I'd ask Chris if we couldn't task this committee to break this into realistic pieces that we could put together in a plan to be implemented over time.
Well, maybe I could answer that as the liaison. They have broken it in, and we talked about this, and I understand it's a lot. And I do understand, if we're gonna plant trees, we probably should do it in May. This is probably too much for this year, I understand that. But they wanted to, and I agreed with them 100%, to present what they think, once again, is our best practice. I kind of agree with Terry that, yeah, we probably should get somebody else who's a community planner once they finish with the rest of the community, knowing that we're not gonna get anything planted this year. But
Not even replacement of the trees we've lost?
See, that's where I would say, tree replacement is not the same as adding more trees in a new project. Tree replacement should be normal maintenance of the community. And I think if we separate the project into tree replacement for what we've lost and new opportunities, for the community to do all these other things, I think that's gonna be easier for one to move forward with the current issue of tree replacement. I'm disappointed we don't have a plan, because when you lose a tree, you should replace a tree. It takes a long time to grow. So I love that you brought that up. There's several things I love that you brought up, but I think we need to, because if this exceeds $50,000, we have to go to the community. By breaking it out and saying tree replacement, we don't need to go to the community to replace an existing maintenance issue. You know, and I think that is a maintenance issue, the stumps that are out there, the trees that have been lost, let's get that taken care of, identify those. And I'd like to look at this going forward too, to say, how do we move forward with taking on, you know, this project. I'd like to also say that I love that you address the noise issue. That noise issue is only gonna get worse. I mean, we've got an issue, we're surrounded by 48 and 27. It affects every homeowner in this community. If it doesn't affect it now, it's gonna affect it a year from now, 2 years from now. It's only gonna get worse. I like a natural barrier versus the cement barriers or the you know, fences. I think that's a great option that you're considering, so I love that you considered that concern as well. So I love the work that you did. I think it's very professional. I just think we need to separate out the things that we can do with a normal situation versus a new project. Okay, that's my feedback.
Okay, Dave, you're gonna add to that?
No,
Or
I
just-
agree completely with what Diane is suggesting, that we move ahead to look into replacing the trees that we've lost.
And the stumps. Look at the
Yeah.
stumps.
Yeah. And then take it from there in terms of, you know, a project to add trees to the community.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since they've already identified those trees that we have lost, at this point, in order to move forward at least with those, I personally feel we should, or task the CAM to look at those specific trees and get a price and be able to come back to the board with replacement of the trees that are gone.
Mary Kay?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then, once that's done, I think we need to prioritize where we want to start, because this is a monumental task.
Right.
And a very expensive task. Not that we don't need it, but I think we need to look at the high traffic areas or the most critical areas to have the trees replaced. And in my personal opinion, that Rodello's thing has gotta be a #1 issue.
I love the Rodello's thing. I mean, that a natural barrier for noise is so much better than to put in a nature community to put a wall up. You know, we see walls all over in the villages. They're not very pretty, even though they paint them, okay? But in a nature community, it would be beautiful to see that, you know, so we'll see.
Barb, do you have any additional?
I think they did a great
So
job.
I wanted to address the stump, the one stump.
Was it one stump? I'm sorry.
yeah.
The one stump.
Because we made it seem like, you know, we don't do anything about that, but that stump was treated and not ground because of the water lines that are right there.
Okay.
But it is treated and it should rot. We just didn't grind it.
And I wasn't being accusatory. I know
I
I've
just
seen
want to make sure everybody
I've
understands.
seen a few other stumps in Legacy walking by trails and things like that, and no big deal. No
Yeah,
big deal.
depending on where they're located, we might not grind them, but we do treat them. Just like if a resident contacted me and said, hey, I've got this butts right up against my curbing, or it's in a rock bed, they don't feel it's safe, then as long as they cut it to the ground and treat it, it's fine.
Well, and not to any dispersion or anything, but Frank is a little bit shorter, you know, so I don't know.
Why was that?
I know.
My feet still reach the ground,
That's true.
okay?
Right.
So, maybe this is what we could do, tree replacement,
Get a proposal.
get a proposal, and do area 2, which is just the red cedars, nothing more, get a proposal for that. Because that would be something that people could see, and I know it's not the whole thing, but at least that's something new plus replacement of trees. And I know it shouldn't be that much for those red cedars. Does that sound like a good option to go forward?
I'll only add that since we just approved $41,000 worth of work done, we need to figure out how many get replaced after all that work is done, because there's some tree replacement involved in that also. So let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's get that work done and then address that. I'll only say additionally that I wish years ago, the board years ago had the same zeal when they were not dealing with the road noise of 48, since I am one of the homeowners that back up to it.
It's not gonna matter.
Question, did you take into account the trees that had the mistletoe that possibly would be removed? Are those considered some of the ones that you were gonna replace?
Yes, in, I believe it's, area 3, the existing forest area, we did, area 4, next page, sorry.
But you did put that in, so that's already in there.
Right, so the new trees in this area is a smaller number of trees, so I'm just doing quick math in my head, it's about 50 trees, of which they're all 7-gallon size. I can tell you a 7-gallon tree wholesale is gonna cost you about $15, maybe $20 a piece, is all you're talking about, cost per tree for 50 trees, just off the top of my head. And a lot of those in this area are designed to replace trees that are either A, dying, because I know there's at least 4 cherry trees in there that we're gonna lose due to mistletoe. But there's also probably 15 or 20 other trees that have died in that area, leaving gaps in the past. The hard part about this one is that there's already existing trees there, so unless you walk through this area, it's not completely obvious what's happening. But what's really happened is we've left that stand of turkey oaks, which is down there in the bottom of the yellow circles. We left that stand of turkey oaks out in the open by themselves, which are now quite ugly. And we're advocating adding pine trees around them to provide a buffer and to make it look better when you drive in the community. Because right now, when you drive in the community, you see those big ugly turkey oaks, which are beautiful trees when they're healthy. But those trees are very strained right now due to last year's drought. And they would really like to have some friends around them to give them some shelter and shade. And I'm not making this up.
I know.
They would like to have some friends around them as a buffer to not get cooked in the sun all the time. And we've advocated putting a grove of pine trees on either side of them to protect it, so we don't lose these turkey oaks, because those trees have been there 100 years, likely.
So there's a point that was brought up, and this is my only concern, Greg, is that we do not know the cost of this total project. And if the total project exceeds $50,000, we have to get community support for that.
Right, and I
So you
understand
can't
that.
piecemeal it, and I'm a little worried about piecemealing.
You're right.
So the reason why I suggested doing the replacements is because that we can get that work done and look at the second component, okay? Because we may have to ask the community, and even though it's broken out in phases, you can't add up 15 invoices and say those are separate projects. This is one project technically to basically give a new face to legacy. And that's the project. What I'm trying to do is say, wait a second, some of that is the old face of legacy and we need to restore it. So that's maintenance, and then look at the new face of legacy. That's what I'm basically looking at. And without knowing the cost of that, we can't do it. We can start it and say that's a sample of the project, and I think there's a limit of what, $5,000 that we're allowed to do that with. But outside of that, we can't spend much more than that without knowing the total project cost. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Right, and I'm sorry, I understand that completely, but
Okay.
our hands are tied about going out and getting pricing. And I know a nursery, I know a guy that would love to do this work, but I can't walk in there and say, hey, I'm from Legacy, we're gonna do this, can you give me a cost? That's not in.
But even if you were to do a high level budget of saying a 7-foot tree takes, it costs $15 with an installation of whatever. At this point in time, I don't even know what this piece is. And then the second piece is gonna be X. And what we could do, just do a high level budget. And if that budget is over $50,000, we have to go to vote on that. Right?
So if I understand it, I'm sorry, Frank, you keep getting jumped in front of there, but we do have another section of the community where we're I tasked them to review. So why don't we take the approach that Diane just said? We make a decision to have me get a proposal to replace the existing trees,
Yeah.
along with the ones that she's gonna cut out, especially in some of the circles that are gonna have them removed. And then we can talk about that at a future board meeting. Let them continue their good work throughout the whole community, and then start thinking about this a little more and how we can put together a plan to propose it to the community.
Kind of like what we did with the trails. We had the ad hoc committee do a similar thing, put the trails
Sure.
together one by one. And then, I mean, we didn't jump on it right then and approve anything when it was first proposed. It took us a while to think about it and get bids and look at it and then price it out. And then, I don't remember us going for a vote from the
Well,
community.
because the only things you've acted on there is maintenance.
Is what?
Maintenance.
Oh,
Because the parts of that trail
were
report, there were improvements we haven't
Just
acted
the
on.
maintenance to an amenity, right?
Yeah,
This is a new
Oh,
phase.
okay.
This is,
Yeah.
this is.
but I think that's an actionable item we can take. Sorry, go ahead, Fred.
No, that's all right. So I wanna commend you again for showing self-constraint, because we've seen other committees grow legs and go farther than they were tasked to do. So thank you for doing that. I know money was not something that you guys were told to consider, so thank you for being self-constrained. That being said, we just mentioned $50,000 here and going to the residents and things like that. You know, I'm no math major, but like for area 4, 54 new trees. 54 new trees at $15 a piece is only like $800. Even if you double that for installation, you're talking less than $2,000. So I don't think we should assume that we're dealing with huge amounts of money. So
I'm just asking for a high level
I
budget,
understand,
that's all.
and one thing that we do have to take into consideration, which they mentioned, and maybe not enough here, but we need to water these trees.
Exactly.
And John is not the answer. So, and that's one thing that they would recommend that we put in the proposal, whatever we do, because until they're established, that's one thing we would have to do is water these trees to ensure that they make it. Now, 15 years ago, there were 1,800 scrub oaks planted here because that was required by I'm not
City
sure.
of Rogers.
It was Pringle, but Pringle had to do it. So they planted 1,800 trees in November. We've got about 200 that survived, and that's what they're recommending is we would do this like in May, so that we have hopefully the wet season coming up, where we wouldn't have to do as much watering. But that's still one of the things that's going to be in this proposal, which is a cost expense. And that's whether we can find, tap into some lines that are already out there or not. That's one thing that we're going to have to consider. So,
and if it's phased, in baby steps, John might be able to be the partial answer because he did it very well when it came to the bamboo.
no,
Okay.
we've talked about it and they
Well,
discussed.
I'm just saying, we're not talking hundreds and hundreds of trees if we do it phased, that's all.
But I guess the other thing too, where I'm coming from is looking at, all right, let's say we get them, they grow, they're doing great, and all of a sudden we have a drought. You gotta get water these trees. We don't wanna spend money and then lose them. So, like you were saying, is there lines out there we can tap into, and then you gotta factor in the fact that it may be more water meters and or
Who's got the
reduce
answer?
cost.
I'd
Okay.
like to jump back in here if you don't
Sure.
mind. Number one, we serve at the pleasure of the board. If you would like us to pare down this proposal, make it a smaller proposal, do multiple proposals, we're here for it. We're working for the board. That's item number one. Item number two, all the trees we proposed are Florida native trees. These trees are all designed to live on their own with no pruning, no watering, no care. They're all completely designed to live that way. So most all of these trees, if you water them the first year, and if they're planted right, you'll never have to touch them again unless they become diseased or get hit by lightning if somebody drives into one of them. But that's part of the whole proposal, is the trees we chose are designed to live with no intervention from humans.
And that's a good answer. I knew that one, by the
Well,
way.
Chris, I think, again, I think if we could ask task the committee, the subcommittee to, look into breaking this out into bite-sized pieces, so to speak, so we could, deal with it that way. I'd like to see a long-term plan where we incrementally grow the effort over time.
I like the first plan where Josh is gonna go.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's taken that in, I'm
Yeah, you have to
that,
do the
that I
maintenance
think we
ones
agree
first.
with, but that,
Yeah.
where we've lost trees over the years,
Right.
we asked Josh to go out and get pricing, to include, and he just mentioned, to include the ones that are gonna be removed with the order that we just approved.
Yeah.
Right?
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will say, Board of Directors is always changing.
Yes.
We're going one direction now. I do not want to see, and I agree 100%. We need to step back a moment. What they've given us is fantastic.
Yes,
I'm
it
just
is.
amazed.
Yes.
But go out, get a professional to come in, take a look at what they proposed and say, do you agree, or is this a good idea? But I think it needs to be done all at one time so that it gets done.
You mean as a project, the whole?
Yes.
The whole proposal?
Absolutely. Because,
Oh, Chris.
yeah, it's a lot. I agree. I absolutely agree. It's a lot. But if we don't do it now, and I'm not saying that anything outside of just the replacement trees is gonna be done this year. This is something that's probably gonna get done next year. But this is something I really think that's how we should do it, because if we don't do it and follow-on boards decide, well, you know what? We don't think that's a good idea. That's, of course, never happened here, huh, Dave? Yeah. That's my only thought process, okay? And I'm not trying to beat anybody up or anything
I
else.
might not be shocked if I had an idea of what the cost might be.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Surprises me
Yeah.
there. It's so little.
Well, wait a minute. Purchasing a wholesale tree price, having it installed and watered are completely different.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
If you plant all the recommended trees at $200, it's $55,000. So, I don't say they're gonna cost $200, but
And
Yeah.
again, let's pull out the ones that we have to do as a
yeah,
separate project.
I
and
think
then
that's
look
the
at
best path,
project.
and then let them finish their report, and then you
And
can
let them
figure out how
finish
to
the
do it.
report, and then see what we need to do. Is it over the 50,000 or is it not? I mean, again, it's a high level number, it's not gonna be perfect, and estimates change over time. But are we dealing with 30,000, are we dealing with 75,000? We don't know.
Yeah.
But by separating out the ones we have to do and we can move forward with, that's one thing, and we can get started. The second component is important. Let's look at the whole project, because we can't, I love that we've got it in sections because we can work on it that way. And we may even take certain things out and say, hey, that we don't agree with that. But not knowing if this is a requirement to go to the community or not, it really hurts us not knowing that. So we need to know that. So I'm not saying it has to be exact, it just needs to be a high level number.
Chris, who would you suggest that we take this study proposal to review, the so-called expert? Would that be?
Well,
We could get
first let
quotes.
them finish.
Right.
Okay,
They gotta do the rest of the community.
right.
And I've explained to them, it's really, we need to move on it pretty quickly, and I would like to see that done by the end of June, for a couple of reasons. And then, yeah, go out and say, this is what our proposal is. Give us what you think, and
But
we
who
would task,
would we go to?
well, we would task Josh to go out
To
and
find
find somebody.
somebody.
So I'll start, obviously I can see this is coming, so we'll start preparing for it. We'll start reaching out to some different nurseries, getting pricing, getting recommendations on who to install it, all that stuff. And then when we get to
Again,
the
high
point
level.
where you guys are gonna make a decision, we'll have all that ready for you.
Thank you.
I think what Dave was talking about, the two is like sort of, or what, and Chris, what I was talking about is also getting someone to consult, take a look at their plan
Sure.
and say, yeah.
An outsider.
Yeah,
too.
like a
Outside.
landscape
Right.
architect,
Right.
somebody that's, we can figure all
Right.
that out. Yeah.
Right. And you really have done an amazing job. I know you put in a lot of hours and it is greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I
So,
have
do
one
you-
follow-up question here before we go on. On the whole pricing part of it. Are you asking the committee to get some ballpark prices?
No.
No.
Okay,
No.
good,
No.
thank you,
No.
thank you. I just,
I know.
I wanted
No,
to.
Josh would like that, I'm sure, but no, Josh is gonna be tasked with
Do
that.
you need a motion?
No.
No.
Be clear on that, thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
I was just going to add that, should we perhaps ask the committee, since they've done such a great job, they broke it down by area, as they proceed, should we ask them to perhaps be able to give their opinion as to breaking it down as to priority? Much like when you buy a new house, you have 10 different renovation projects you want to do someday. You break that down in the very first project, I want to do this, then this, and then this. Could that be done based on your knowledge of all the trees and everything? What would you do first if we had to break it in steps?
I'd do exactly what Chris advocated, is to get the ball rolling and do area 2, because that's the most bang for your buck. The amount of cost on that is minimal. The sooner you put them in, the sooner those trees grow, the sooner those trees grow, the sooner you get a buffer, and the sooner you start blocking noise coming off US 27. Because as you said, the noise is not gonna get better, it's not gonna go away, and I don't think any of us wanna see a wall built there. And I think we can get away with having a natural barrier there that would not only look good, but benefit the entire community by breaking the sound.
Diane just told me something. She said we can spend up to $5,000 on a test.
Part of the project.
Project.
I thought there was a spending amount that you could, as you're proceeding down a path, without having to get the whole amount, approved. But I'm not sure. I know I heard that in the
Well,
past.
it doesn't matter, we're gonna let them finish the report and
Yeah.
replace existing trees on their
Okay,
maintenance
and not
budget.
work on the other
And then
two.
we'll deal with the rest later.
Okay.
Who else wants to speak? And by the way, Greg, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Come on up, Pat.
I'm hired to do my yard.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is the tall and the short of it.
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
I didn't hear what you said, so that's good. Greg did an absolutely wonderful job, and because I could listen to him and I knew what he was talking about, I could also take notes. The priority, you asked for a priority. One of the things that our liaison suggested was that our priority be something that's visual by the entire community. And because then they get excited about it, they feel like they're part of it, which is why the desert and the forest are two areas that the majority of the community sees. As far as the ponds on the other side of the boulevard, we're starting to have erosion on those ponds, and Joshua?
Sorry.
But by planting these trees, it's going to help with the erosion. Also, there is water along Legacy Boulevard. I don't know if we can tap into it. There are great big water round discs throughout that whole desert area. One thing that was not mentioned that I think is real important is that we really took into consideration the neighbors. And so we left a 50-foot buffer so that they're not going to be having people walking on that walking path by their houses. One thing that the stump, it's ground level. And to replace that tree, the other trees have already covered the canopy. So it'd be really hard to get a small tree to grow without getting sunlight. One of the things that I think we all need to be really aware of is this isn't a community expense, this is a community investment. Yeah, many of these trees are older than this community. Others were put in, like the trees along the boulevard, when the community was built. We need to keep our community, just like fixing up our amenities. We need to keep our community up to date with everything. One thing that I really think is important, and I'm not telling Josh how to do his job, but to have a native consultant come in, because when we designed this, we were looking at how big the trees would get. The pine trees are going to drop the leaves. It was the whole cycle that we did. So it wasn't like, oh, okay, let's get 15 of these and where can we put them? Everything had a purpose and a reason. And for the holly trees, okay, thank you for talking about little red seeds being poisonous, but the one that I'm really worried about is the rosary pea, way more than the hollies. Most plants are poisonous, I will tell you that. But the holly trees don't drop their seeds, the birds come and get them. So, all right. Nobody else got the 3 minute, but I did. But I was done anyway, so.
Thank you, Pat. And that's because you weren't presenting, you were just talking.
Okay, but one last statement is, this desert and the forest, that's the biggest project in the whole community.
We've got another one?
Trevor,
I love that the word desert is used. That's the greenest desert I've ever seen.
Can't repeat anything Pat said, Trevor.
Wrong one, that's not a desert.
I really love this country that's got a great monetary system which is metric, and then you talk about gallons and feet. I mean, come on. Now, what I want to say is that I commend the board for recognising the use of local residents that are experts.
Mm-hmm.
I really do, and I think that should be done more in the future. You should look around the community to see where your experts are. How much does it cost you to get this wonderful presentation on where we can go to make this community much more beautiful? How much did you get? Yeah. No, it's cost us nothing, and I think it's absolutely phenomenal, and we should do this more often. One thing I would ask you to do is to look at the water that you use to water the plants, because we found that our recycled water in the past is full of crap and full of bad nutrients. No, I think that's a genuine point. We're going to miss Greg, yes, but we got some wonderful people behind him. That's all I got to say on it.
Yeah. And lady, yeah. You know, that's something I could have said a little bit earlier is, and these committees now are looking for people because it's that time of year again. Committees are how this community runs, and they're very special people. They take time, and it's appreciated. They do things, and they've been doing things for years to make this a great place to live. So with that, and once again, thank you very much and we will go forward here. We've got another meeting coming up on the 5th of March at 10:30, which is about the covenants. We'll find out. Did y'all vote? Please vote so we know. Then we've got the annual membership meeting, which is at 11 a.m. on the 5th, right here. Both of those meetings right here. Then right after that, at that meeting, all of the officers go away. If we're reelected, we go away, and we have to have an immediate meeting afterwards to vote in new officers. We also have a regular Board of Directors meeting coming up on March 27th at 2 p.m. So, anybody else got anything? Thank you all very much. I will accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
And I will second that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you very much.